friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. In today's video, I am going to be project planning with the new episode kit from Paper Person. Now, I have gone ahead and cut apart all of my cards because I like to work in a lot of pocket pages, and so having everything cut into the cards just works better for me. But in case you haven't seen this kit before, normally, the cards come on two 12 by 12 sheets. So all of the 4 by 6s were on one sheet where the back side was this really pretty floral pattern. And then a couple of the 3 by 4s would be the same. And then the rest of the 3 by 4s came on a piece of paper where the back side was this pink on pink polka dot. So the nice thing about that is if there are any cards that I feel like I won't use, I can always flip them over and I have another option on the back of what I could use that card for. So I've got my cards cut apart here. I've got a die cut pack that came in the kit here in my tray. There was also this little bit of enamel stickers, so lots of different shapes such as circles and hearts and stars. And then there were also 2 additional pieces of 12 by 12 pattern paper from the Buenos Dias collection from American Crafts. So this one is the at home paper, and then on the back side we have this blue on blue diagonal stripe. Then we've got this wavy rainbow pattern. This one is called Surprise. And the back side of this one is a teal on teal polka dot. And then we've also got the acetate or transparency, 12 by 12 transparency from the same collection, so Buenos Dias. And then finally in this kit, there was a stamp set that came in here. So one where you can fill it out with all different kinds of sentiments regarding watching shows. So there's different types of shows, different sentiments for the types of shows, a ticket stub here, and then a couple of other icons that are really great for documenting this particular topic. In addition to the main kit, I also picked up the 2 alpha stamps that were released this time. These are the Felix Alpha. So I got the filled in stamp and the outline because I am working on building up my alphabet stamp collection. So I did go ahead and grab those 2. All right, so let's go ahead, get you guys on fast forward and get to planning. My hope is to be able to pull out maybe 4 to 5 different stories, potentially a spread of Project Life. We're just going to see where things go once I get started. So let's go ahead, put you on fast forward and jump right in. All right, so to get this planning process started, the first thing that I'm going to do here is determine what is going to be one of the hardest things for me to use and figure out how to use it. This is a lot of times how I like to start when I'm planning, because I find that when I'm coming up with a creative solution for how to use a product that would be somewhat difficult to use, that just ignites my creative juices. So if I can get that done, then I just start rolling from there. So the piece that I thought was going to be the most difficult is this confetti transparency page. I really love it. I just wasn't sure how I was going to be able to use really any of it or all of it. And then I thought, why couldn't I use the transparency to create some kind of traveler's notebook cover, and then to do some kind of traveler's notebook all about the things that we watch. So I'm going to mull over this as I work on planning throughout the course of this video, and then you'll see eventually I will come up with an idea off of that. It's not quite what I was thinking in the beginning, but I do come up with an idea for a traveler's notebook, and I'm really, really excited about it. But in the beginning, the only reason I thought about it was because of this transparency here. So what I'm doing is I'm going through my cards and trying to figure out, okay, if I were to create a traveler's notebook about watching TV, what are some of the journaling cards that would go with that theme? So the ones like currently binge watching or recent binge watch, it's something like that, was one of them. One of them was about sequels or not a sequel, what's it called when they redo it? Basically, a revival show. I thought those types of cards, the ones where they were all fill in the blank type of sections, would be great in a traveler's notebook all about watching shows. So I set those to the side. I also really like the ticket that has the letter M on it for movie. I think it's for movie. And I thought that that would be nice maybe on the title. So I'm going to stick that with all of the product. And then once I'm happy with where things are at, I'll set those products to the side and then work through the rest of the things that I have to try and come up with stories that I can tell with those products. I did pull over one of my planning sheets here. This one's for a traveler's notebook, which it has a third traveler's notebook sized page in case you're using a pocket page notebook and you have something in the center, or you want to create something in the center or a flip up, or who knows, that it just gives you that extra space to sketch that thing out if you wish. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I can take this transparency and use a bone folder to fold it in half and then maybe stitch it closed to create a sleeve that I could then hole punch and then stick that into a normal 6x8 album. I love finding ways to include my mini albums inside of my bigger albums. So ultimately I decide against that idea, but I still really like it. Like maybe I need to see if I've got any other transparency that I could do that with, because I think that would be really fun. Basically to turn my transparency into an envelope that is hole punched. So I don't know, an idea to think about for sure. So I'm going to set that stuff to the side and work through the rest of this product. So I'm starting to take note of what types of colors are in this kit and grouping things based on their color, just to give me an idea of, do these specific cards go together? Are they sparking any type of ideas? You can see there in the upper right-hand corner, there are a bunch of 4x6 cards that have blue tones. So there's like a blue floral card. There's a blue, it's kind of like grids, or it's kind of like a plaid, but not really. And then there's another one that has circles. It's got light circles on it, like a geometric type of circle. So lots of blues. There's also a couple that have the teal tones. So there's the one with the 4 sections for journaling, and then there's the one that looks like a ledger card or a note card there. And then there are also a few that have yellow and orange tones that I thought went fairly nice together. So I'm just trying to use those types of signifiers to figure out which products I think will go well to tell stories together. And then on top of that, which ones have sentiments on them or icons on them that make me think of things that I could talk about as it relates to our family. One of the things that pops up for me immediately is from this little tiny tag with the Netflix N on it. I don't know about any of you out there with kids, but my kids are obsessed with Netflix, especially Isabella. And so I thought it would be a really cool idea to document the shows that she has been watching on Netflix, which is going to be a funny story because she never really watches the same show twice. She's always bouncing around to new shows, and I blame that on streaming services like Netflix that constantly have new shows for them. So she just, she doesn't really have a favorite show because she just is constantly changing what she's watching. So I thought that would be an interesting story to tell and something that will be cool to look back on later to see, is she still feeling that way? Does she still watch TV that way? Or is that just a thing from childhood? So I'm setting aside some product to tell that story for the Netflix. Then I also really like this card that's got the 4 spots for journaling. There's another card, I think it just says new episode over and over again, and the little teal TV. I'm thinking about adding a piece of the the pattern paper that's got the teal on the back as a 4x6 card with that product, since it's got those same teal tones. And I am thinking about documenting the shows that my son is watching. So he is the opposite of Isabella. Isabella likes to jump around and watch new shows all the time. Jonah has his favorite handful that he constantly wants to watch. So of course, they are super fun to watch TV with together, and they never fight over what they're going to watch. But it is, it's interesting, just the differences between them. And this is the perfect opportunity to document those stories. So I'm setting that product to the side as well. I love, love, love all of the Spanish sentiments. So I love the card that says uno más, so one more. And I know I want to use that in some way. Honestly, I'm going to end up putting it somewhere else than where it is right now. But I have it in the middle here because I just really, really want to use it because I love it. So for the moment, I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to work instead on some of these cards that have tones that go a little bit better together. I do add the uno más into the cards that have the yellow and orange tones in them, but eventually I will add it into something else later. But it does look really good with those two other cards for sure. Then in the left side of the screen where you can see, the floralish card and the teal ledger type card, that is product that for now I'm going to set aside for Project Life. I will say that one of the things I struggle with when it comes to paper person kits is the amount of journaling cards, and it's not even that there's not enough cards to journal on. It's just that some of them are so directed that there are not a lot of cards available for just general journaling like that ledger card is. And that's something that I struggle with. So one of the things that I'm going to do this month to counter that is to use some of the cards that have the full pattern on them as a background or a border or I guess a mat to some journaling. So I'm going to print out a block of journaling on white paper and then attach that, so cut it so that it's slightly smaller than the card, the pattern card, and stick it on top of that. So you'll see the journaling white card with a border of the pattern. And I think that that will be good enough. But I do wish that there were some more journaling cards included, like for actual writing, included in these kits. So, I guess that's just my rant for the day anyway. So I'm trying to figure out here what to do with a couple of these embellishments that, I don't know. There were a few, and maybe I haven't put them away yet. There are two. One of them is an award, and then the other one is something else. I forget. But they're two things that I don't really care about. Like we in our family, we don't really care about like the Golden Globes or the Oscars or anything like that. Like we don't watch any of those award shows. So those don't really relate to me. So I'm just going to put those embellishments away and not feel bad about that. Like you don't have to use all of the pieces in these kits, especially if they're things that don't go with whatever your lifestyle is or whatever your habits are. Like if you don't watch the Oscars, then you don't have to keep that thing either. It's okay. At least, that's my belief. Okay, so the next story that I'm deciding to tell here, and here's where you can see me sketching, like, okay, I'm going to use this blue as a background and I'll put my journaling on top. This is going to be for me to document the fact that we are caught up on Doctor Who. So Aaron and I are really big Doctor Who fans, and we hadn't been caught up on any of the seasons because we've been waiting for them to come to a streaming service for free. And after a couple of years of waiting, we have realized that that is not going to happen. So we just went ahead and purchased the seasons and watched them. We should have done it a long time ago because they're like $14. Like it's really not that big of a deal to buy the season and watch it, especially when it's a show we love as much as we do. So we finally finished season 12. We are all caught up and we are ready for the new season whenever that comes, which might not be until 2022, probably, but that's okay. We're happy to be caught up. So that will be a story for our family story album. This is the one I'm going to do for Isabella and her love of Netflix. So I've got the TV there that says, I think it says I just can't look away. And then I'm going to layer the tag on top of the stripe card. So it's a stripe, like orange and white stripe. And then on the bottom, there is that lighter blue card there with the pattern on it. Again, I'm going to use that as a mat for some journaling. And I will pair this with an outside of the page protector page where I can add little tiny images of all of the shows that she has been watching. I'm super curious to go into her profile on Netflix, which she has a kid profile that we set up parameters for, but to go in there and see what are the shows that she's been watching over the course of the last week or so. Before I put this away, I am just going to go ahead and grab some of my textured white cardstock, cut it down to the size I want it to be, and add it into that pocket. I'm going to do the same thing for the 4x6. This is where I will print my journaling for the 4x6 card. So I'll add it on there, trim it a little bit more, and then stick it on the matte pattern card, I suppose. All right, so next what I'm going to do is tell the story for Jonah. So this is going to be for the shows that Jonah loves. For this one, I took one of the pattern papers that came in the kit and I cut it down into a 4-inch strip by 12 inches, and then I cut that in half. So now I have two 4x6s. I really, really love this pattern paper in particular. I actually really love the collection that those papers came from, which is the what is it called? I think it's Buenos Dias? No. Maybe it is. Yeah, Buenos Dias. I think it is. I think that's what it's called. And it's by, let me see if I can remember his name. I cannot remember his name. Anyway, I'll put a link to the collection in the post below in case you guys want to check it out. But it's very Spanish Mexican themed, and I love it. There are Spanish words in there on some of the embellishments that go with it. Not necessarily in the stuff that is included in the paper person kit, but in the main collection there are. So for this one, I am going to use the section that's got the 4 journaling spots to talk about the 4 different shows. And then I'm going to print photos and put them on the pattern portion that are the shows that correlate to the journaling. And then we'll have a decorative card on there as well. Okay, so next I'm moving on to these cards right here. I'm trying to remember the story that I wanted to tell with this. I'll be able to think about it here once I start actually getting it planned. But I do know that I'm going to take this paper here and I'm going to cut it down into a traveler's notebook sized paper. So this is going to be 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. And I believe I actually don't even end up using it for this. I'll end up putting it somewhere else to use for the traveler's notebook idea that I've got for later. I'm going to pull out this is just a random story traveler's notebook. So kind of like I've got a 6x8 story album. I've got a 12x12 story album. I also have a couple of these traveler's notebooks that I consider like traveler's notebook story albums. So they're just random stories in here as I see fit because I really enjoy working in this size. So it's been a fun addition to be able to have all of these different, sizes to work in. So I'm thinking about adding this in here in this traveler's notebook. I love the way that the teal looks with those really retro looking orange flowers. I think that is really super cool and kind of sparked that whole idea there. But then ultimately I decided, you know what, I want to see if I can actually make a traveler's notebook about the shows that I watch. So I went into my stash and I have an Everyday Explorers, I don't remember the number of the traveler's notebook because they have numbers that correlate to the different designs. But basically there is a large blank portion at the top and then a small section at the bottom to add your journaling. So I'm thinking, what if I just turn this entire notebook into a notebook to document the shows and the movies that we've watched? Kind of like I have a reading journal. My reading journal is a little bit different than this, but this way I'm documenting the things that I'm reading and the things that I'm watching, which I think is kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is cut some pieces down into a usable form for that notebook. So I'm taking some of these pattern papers that I have and cutting them down into the 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. I also like the idea of putting a piece of the transparency in the front page and then trimming off maybe like an inch or an inch and a half of the edge of the notebook. If you've ever seen a notebook by Heba Al-Sabai, she is My Little Journal. She does this sometimes with her traveler's notebooks, and I love the look of it because then you can see a little bit of the first page. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to cut this down into that traveler's notebook size. I'll have that be the first page in there. Maybe I'll attach it with like washi, or I'm not exactly sure yet how I'll attach it in there. But then when I have that portion cut off, you'll be able to see it underneath, and then I can stamp my title along the edge on the front. So then with the remaining portion of this transparency, I cut part of it down into a 6x8, a 6.875 by 8.25. So I can hole punch that and use that in my 6x8 album as a transparency. And then I have a few pieces remaining, so I cut those down into 3x4 cards, because sometimes it's really fun to add a transparent element to your pocket page projects. So I'm thinking I might be able to do that with some of those transparency pieces. And then I also have a few extra remaining bits of the pattern papers that are just big enough to be trimmed down into 3x4 cards is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that. And then I can add these bits and pieces in with my Project Life products. And then some of them can go in with the Traveler's Notebook as well. Some of them, like that one, was a little bit longer, so I left it as a 3x8 just to see, like maybe I want to use it as a 3x8, and if I don't, I can cut that in half, and then I have 2 more 3x4s. And then the nice thing too with these is they are double-sided patterns, so it gives me a few more options for patterns and colors that I can use in my Project Life spread, and then also in some of these other spreads as well. This one is a 4x6, so I'm just going to leave it as a 4x6 because, again, that gives me some more options for Project Life. And then we're going to go from there. So next I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can do a 3x8, a 3x8 project here. And I like the idea of doing something for my niece's album. Now, all of these papers that I have left don't necessarily say anything about watching anything. So it doesn't have to be about like TV and shows and movies. It can be literally about anything. So what I do is I'm going to pull out this little bucket of ephemera pieces. This is all I have. Whenever I have leftover pieces from my kits, I'll throw them in here, and then I can go through this to pull out pieces for my projects when I need something, like I do right now. And included in this little cup are a couple of these triangles that have the same tones of color as the wavy stripe pattern paper, specifically that like sandy salmon color. So one of them, I don't remember what it says. It says something on it. And then I had this piece that I had stamped and cut out that says fresh out of the oven. So I thought like, ooh, maybe this could be a good way to tell a story about like my niece being freshly born, because she's fresh out of the oven, right? Like buns in the oven. Well, buns out of the oven. So I thought about that being my story. But then I found another one that says 20 in 20. And she was born in 2020. So I thought, maybe instead, because when else am I going to use 20 in 20? I'm like, maybe instead I can tell the story, or I can ask for journaling to tell the story of 20 things that they were thankful for about having May in 2020, because even though a lot of things were harder because, she was born during a pandemic, some things were actually quite nice about being born in a pandemic. So I would love to get some journaling from my in-laws about that. Like, what are, tell me 20 things that you are thankful for. So then in terms of the page design, I'm thinking I'll have the transparent card in there. And even if there's a card behind it that's white, that's okay too, because you'll still be able to see those specks and those confetti pieces. And then I've got a little title card to put on top of that I can put the word gratitude in. The card underneath that's just going to be basically the subtitle 20 and 20. And I'm just going to leave it as decoration. And then I'm thinking I'll make a flip out. So I'll do journaling on a card on top of this 3x8, or I'll do a photo on top of the 3x8 and have it matted by the pattern. And then that portion can flip open, and underneath that can either be the journaling if the photo's on top, or the photo if the journaling is on top. So either way, it'll work. All right, so now I'm pulling over all of the pieces that I had cut out from earlier to see what other stories can I tell using this product. And another thing that I found in my little embellishment cup are these 2x2 die cut circles. And they, again, have a lot of those same color tones as are found in the stripe wavy card. So I'm thinking that what I'll do is use those in a 2x2 page protector to help me tell a story. And I took a couple of the cards that I had remaining and I went ahead and punched those into 2-inch circles. So that way I've got a little bit more color variety that I can pick through for this story, because some of them weren't quite right. So, it just lets me pick the ones that I want. I really like the way that the striped, like orange and yellow one turned out. And then a few of the other ones, I think all of the other ones that I punched out, I left to the side because I really like the way that the die cuts were looking that I had already had. In addition to those circle die cuts, I'm also going to grab out some of my circle chipboard pieces just to see if there are any that I can use on here on top of the die cut circles. I thought that could be kind of fun. And then I'm also going to pair this with the orange, like really retro looking flowers, and then the wavy stripe that everything kind of matches. And I think that will look really nice. And then I can also add a 3x4 photo into the empty spot. And then the other sections of the 2x2 can also be 2x2 photos, which I can decide, maybe I want them to be circle photos, or maybe I want them to be square photos. If they are square photos, then I typically put some kind of square piece behind the circles, behind those die cut circles, just because I like everything to either be a square or a circle. But this might be a fun opportunity to look at actually cutting my photos into circles and just letting the elements inside of those pockets be circles. So, we'll see. We'll see as I actually put this together later what I decide to do. But I am just going through a bunch of these chipboard pieces. One of my favorite things about using products like Paper Person or Colorcast Design to plan my stories is it gives me an opportunity to go through my stash and use some of that stuff up. Like these. I have had these yellow felt hearts for so long. I think they came in, I don't even remember what kit they came in, maybe the family kit, but one from a long time ago. And I've had these last two for ages. I love the way that the tones of them go super well with the product that I've already pulled. So I'm going to use the smaller of the two on the floral card. And then I also grabbed out the card that says remember, and it's got 1 through 5 on there as my journaling card, because that's what I felt like I was missing, is where am I going to put the journaling for this page. So, and then I don't remember if I'm going to add some kind of photo at the bottom and have the have it matted. I think if I draw it here, then we'll know. Yes. Yes. I'm like, that's my instinct right now. So we'll put a photo down in the bottom that'll be not quite 4x6. And then, you know, we'll have the journaling and all of that up at the top with the filler card and all of those circles. I think this one is going to turn out really fun. And again, it has nothing to do with watching. You know, it's just using the colors and the things that I have in my stash to help me tell a story, a random story. I think I'm going to call this one like Sunshiny Day and just document some kind of sunny day that we've had together. So that is going to be that one. I'm trying to see if there are any more that I have to tell. Oh, the Traveler's Notebook, of course. So what I want to do here last, the only other thing I have besides this is just my Project Life. So for sketching out this idea, basically what I want to do is just create a sketch for my title page because I don't want to forget like what my idea was for that. So I've got, you know, the transparency on the first page, cutting down the cover a little bit, adding some stamping. I'm thinking about calling this my now playing Traveler's Notebook. And then for the inside, this is where I'm going to do a couple of different sketches here. So my idea is for the most part to have the large space at the top be a photo of like the show poster or the movie poster for whatever show or movie we've watched. And then in the lines portion, I'll go ahead and put my journaling in there for thoughts on the show, you know, if I would recommend it, those types of things. And then for some of the spreads in between the pages, I'm thinking what I'll do is take the Traveler's Notebook page, which right now is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4, and I want to trim that down to maybe a little bit more than 3 inches wide by the 8 1/4 tall. So maybe I'll make it like 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, and then on those pieces, I can then adhere on 2 of the journaling cards, 2 of those 3x4 journaling cards in a column. So you'll see, I will kind of sketch this and you'll see those sections that I scribbled out. That would be as though I had cut that portion off of the page. So then there'll be some shorter pages in here and some full pages in here. And that will let me use up more of that product in this little album. And then also, like, we don't really watch that much TV, so maybe it'll help me actually fill up the album for the year 2020 and start a new one for next year. If not, that's okay. I can always keep going in the one album. So I'm going to make sure that I've got all of my pieces in here ready to go. I am keeping all of those fill-in journaling cards. I'm thinking that those will be good for an album like this. And then I also have a couple of filler cards that I think would be good in this album as well. I'm debating this one. I think ultimately I decide against it. And then if I need any more, I can always pull out the digitals of this kit, or I can also go into my Allie Edwards Watch Story Kit and pull some out of there too. So, you know, I have a couple of options, and then if I ever see any other movie-related kits, then that might be something I would be interested in looking into, whereas before I decided to do this project, I probably would not have been that interested in it. So, you know, it keeps it fun. It keeps it fresh. So this is going to be, for the most part, all of my projects. The last thing I'm going to pull over is going to be or the supplies I will use for Project Life. Some of them I think I'm going to leave them, like this one I think I'll leave as a 3x8, but maybe I cut it down. I can't really remember right now. And I went and looked up, you know, what week do I want to do this for? And I'll just, you know, for the most part, I kept everything really plain for Project Life. So it's just mostly, you know, like the days of the week and the blues and the patterns. There's nothing that really talks about movie watching or anything like that. So that will help me to be able to actually use this product to document a week inside of Project Life. All right, friends, that completes my project planning for today. So out of that kit, I was able to pull out 7 projects total. So 6 well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 6 story-based projects, and then 1 packet of supplies for Project Life. Now, I will mention that there is the one that is a bit more than just a regular old project, and one that won't necessarily be done by the time I use the supplies for it. It's one of those things that'll be ongoing. So I'll have to find other things that I can pull from my stash to use in there in the future. All right, well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed seeing all of these stories or story ideas come about, and maybe it has inspired you to pull out your paper person kit and see what stories you can tell for you and your family. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with a process video for one of these spreads, and it will most likely be whichever one needed the most digital work, which I don't remember which one that was at this point. But I believe there was one that had some more digital stuff to do with it. So whichever one that is, that's what we're going to do, because then I can show you the digital portion. And then on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am going to be here live with you guys putting together the rest of the projects that I have planned for today. So hopefully I will see you guys back here then. And if not, I will have that live video available for replay as soon as I am done with it. So hopefully that will give you even more ideas, and it will be pretty fun to see all of these come to life in real life. All right, friends, well, that is it for today. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye, friends.